In this month's episode, we are discussing what is your favorite instrument shop and why. And we also have a few other questions connected to instruments and luthiers and, well, basically instrument shop questions. Here we go.
Hey there, music makers. I'm Hayes Griffin.
I'm Magnus Sedlund.
And welcome to the Mandolin Secrets Podcast, a show where we take a deeper look at what's happening in the world of mandolin secrets. Each episode will tackle our questions of the week, unpack the latest mandolin secrets lessons, and answer your questions about mandolin guitar and all things music. In this month's episode, we'll be discussing what is the best low-cost or budget instrument you've played, what is your favorite instrument shop and why, do you perform any mandolin maintenance or repair yourself, or do you take it to a luthier? And Magnus has a cool new lick to show us from Adam Steffey. Before we dive into this week's discussion, though, be sure to head to mandolinsecrets.com/podcast to sign up for reminders about our upcoming episodes, and just search Mandolin Secrets Podcast on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to get updates when we release a new episode.
Yeah, and I think it's not always that we have this specific theme for our podcast episode, but this time really nailed it. Genius by accident, maybe I would say. But so, and I'm actually the way that I see those questions being connected. So, well, we already said, like, what is your favorite instrument shop and why? There's a few elements that has to be part of our favorite instrument shop. And that's almost how it's connected in the other two questions. But so if we're not like starting in that end, but instead like showing like this, do you perform any mandolin maintenance and repair yourself, or take it to a luthier? How do you approach this, Hayes?
Yeah, for years I just took it to a luthier. There were a couple instrument shops around town, which we'll get to later, that had some respected luthiers, and I definitely just trusted all of my instrument repair and maintenance with those guys. And then, as I got into my 20s, my best friend, Jacob Hawkins, the infamous Jacob Hawkins that we talk about so much, he became a luthier himself and started to kind of, it was natural that I got curious about, how to actually do these things. So he showed me how to, I think the first thing that I actually learned how to do was just a setup on a guitar. So like adjusting the nut and the saddle height on an acoustic guitar. And then I eventually moved on to fret work. So I dress and level my own frets and stuff like that now too.
I really must admit I'm quite jealous of you having a good friend like Jacob that is like a top luthier like that, like just around the corner, that help you out and teach you how to do all this stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. I feel very lucky to have that.
And for listeners here, at the time when I was visiting Hayes, like 1.5 years ago, I brought a mandolin from here to get it in the hands of Jacob so that it could help me out with it.
World-renowned luthier Jacob Hawkins, right? He's got people flying all the way from Sweden just to have him set up their mandolin,
Yeah, but I think it's, well, here we're kind of really touching upon a big difference from you and me. Because around where you are, there are really good like luthiers and maintenance people, like even specialists in mandolins. They're really rare here in Sweden. There's a few that I trust that I've been but still they are like 3-hour drive from where I live. So also over the years I've learned to do some of the maintenance and repair myself, and I even, now that I'm saying it, I know there in Mandolin Secrets Academy there is a few like setup guides that I included there. It's from the most simple things to how to change strings properly, but also more like how to adjust the string height of your adjustable bridge. There is one how to adjust the truss rod if your mandolin have a truss rod. I guess the most like advanced tutorial in this category is the one where I show you how to fill up a nut groove.
That's a pretty that is an advanced kind of it's a level 2 technique,
Level 2, yeah. I mean it's not like dressing the frets like you are. That we've got a level 3, level 4 maybe, but it's still something that some of listeners can easily do it themselves, but some people may want to take it to a luthier and see them do this kind of thing. But but I guess one thing I want to add to this question is, for anyone that interesting to try it, I would just ask, it's just getting started and trying to do some of it, and you will learn more as you go, sort of.
Yeah. And it starts simple, like you're talking about with like the like adjusting the string height on the mandolin is a great place, I think, to start, right? And maybe the intonation of the mandolin, right? Like adjusting the bridge to do that. Yeah. Those are tasks that don't require you to adjust anything that you might break or screw up, right?
Exactly. And I do know a lot of listeners now thinking, but why would I even want to adjust the string height? So if you're asking that question, check out those tutorials, because I'm not only answering the question how to do it, but also why, and why you want to do it, basically.
Yeah. It's stuff you should be checking.
And why I started in this end, because I think, at least for me, like part of a really good instrument shop is there's got to be someone, there got to be, if not luthier or a repairman, got to be part of it, because otherwise it's not like qualifying for my favorite shop anyway.
I would agree. Yeah, that's definitely one of those things. Like, you can have a good instrument shop without a luthier, but a great instrument shop has a luthier. Like that's kind of how it goes.
And I mean, that's a place where you can take instruments you already own and get it fixed. But also, if they have a good one like that, even the instruments in the shop, if you're looking to get one, will be in better condition because someone puts their hand to it. And I mean, we're almost now bridging over to the third question, but really, a good instrument with a poor setup isn't that good.
Nah, it masks the fact that it's a good instrument. It can be one of those things that I see a lot of beginners, I think, that are discouraged from continuing playing guitar or mandolin because they just have an instrument where the action is too high or something like that, So it's,
Exactly. Yeah. And going to the other road is also somehow true that if you get one of these low-cost budget instruments set up really well, it can actually play pretty smoothly, and you will probably really fond of it.
Yeah, that can be the difference between a good or a bad experience, right?
Yeah. But to be really specific, my favorite instrument shop, so I visited a few ones over the years, and I would say my favorite shop that I've ever been to is Griffin Stringed Instruments.
Of course it is.
California, US, in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Griffin, that's one of the, not only do they have a great name for their shop, but they're legendary. I've been looking at their website for years. I think that's a good choice.
And I've been in the actual shop. That's where I bought my Phoenix mandolin. It's actually, this summer, it's 19 years ago. Time flies.
Wow. Man.
But it's they had, I mean, a range of really good mandolins and a range of even better guitars, probably, and also some legendary people like fixing the instruments, and also not only like very knowledgeable. Is that a word? Knowledgeable. But also they were curious and interested. They had a guy from Sweden there, and they were like, "Oh, what do you play?" And they were looking at the mandolin I brought there. They were, I mean, really passionate about music and instruments, and yeah, that's what you can expect from a favorite instrument shop, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. That's your experience at Griffin kind of reminds me at my experience at I'll say this is my favorite shop, even though I've got 2 or 3 that are noteworthy. But Elderly Instruments in Lansing, Michigan is very hard to beat in that regard too. Kind of one of the first stores. Me and Jacob, here we go again. Jacob Hawkins, as soon as he got his driver's license, Elderly Instruments is about 4.5 hours away. No joke. We were 16 and 17 years old, respectively. And he's like, there's this place in Michigan. We got to go. They have a Lloyd Loar mandolin. I think we can go play it, So we, 2 idiot teenage kids drive all the way up to Michigan to play a $250,000 mandolin.
Wow. That's worth a virgin journey, right?
Yes.
Going to play that. That's awesome.
You got it, man. But
I love it.
But to kind of speak to the shop experience too, it's the same that you were kind of talking about at Griffin. Like you walk in and they're interested in you. Like usually, people, it's not uncommon for people to travel there with their instruments, either to get appraised or repaired, or just they have their instruments on them. So if you walk in with a guitar, you have to check it at the front, so you don't walk out with one of their guitars, right? But but the guy checking the instruments is always like, "Oh, that's a Leo Posh DM, man. We had 2 of those." You know what I mean? So they're always like very engaged with the customers that way.
That's great.
Just like Griffin, you can find any amazing guitar that you wanted there. A new Martin, a new Bourgeois, a new Collings, any of that stuff, but also pre-war Martin guitars, pre-war Gibson guitars, pre-war mandolins. It's anything you could want is at Elderly. And the repair shop, they're legendary. I think Joe Conkley. Conkley is his last name.
Okay.
Is it Jim or Joe? I'm such an idiot. But Mr. Conkley is legendary in his kind of reputation in not really Michigan, but just like the whole eastern half of the country. People will ship their vintage guitars to Elderly to have them repair it. So I think Elderly is a strong choice for favorite instrument shop.
Yeah, that's great. And I think also when we're talking about this, I mean, I think everyone playing an instrument also have the experience of instrument shops being the total opposite.
Yes.
I mean, it's like people in there are arrogant. They kind of want to demonstrate their expertise of music and instruments by being arrogant and like this snobby kind of people.
Yeah.
That is, I tell you, here in Sweden, that is almost it's more common than the opposite, I feel. And that is a shame. Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, but I think it's something to do, I don't know why, or
maybe because it's rarer over there or something. I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but I think it's also the fact that, and now I'm just guessing basically, but also I'm guessing from experience. But I think a lot of people, it's not rare that people end up, like aspiring musicians, end up in a music store selling strings, picks, and guitar pedal effects.
Yeah, as opposed to playing sold-out tours all over the world.
Yes, and so I guess sometimes in their interaction with someone that's kind of are in the position that they wish they were. They have to kind of make a mark or make a stand that I'm not sure, but I because here's the thing, I'm getting a worse service in a music store than in stores in general. And this is my my guess why it is like that.
Man, I'll say that I've had similar experiences here, and I have no problem saying this name out loud. Guitar Center is usually the worst experience in the world from that perspective. It's full of people, like at least the one here in Columbus. There are a couple guys that I've had really good experiences with, but on average, they're not humble. They're not there to actually like help you. They're there to let you know how much they know about the thing that you're looking at. You know, it's but like you said, at Elderly Instruments are one of those types of places. You go in there and they'll let you play a $250,000 mandolin, and they're asking you questions about your music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to you know, it's a much different experience.
Very much different experience. And with this said about the Swedish music shop culture, I also want to highlight a really good music shop. My favorite Swedish instrument shop is in Stockholm. It's called Jam, like G-A-M. Jam. Yeah. So if you ever visit Stockholm, you should go there. They have everything like that we want from it. They have a passionate, interested, kind staff working there. They have a great collections of instruments, even some vintage instrument. Maybe not from an elderly or Griffin kind of point of view, but still a good selection of instruments. And they do have a great, the best luthier around, Mats Nordvall, working there.
Ah, Mats is at that shop.
Yes.
Okay,
he's at that shop. So among a few others, I think there are 3 there, luthier. So really, that is that's the place to go to if someone ever comes to Stockholm. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, well, I believe I will have to maybe make a stop there.
Pass it. Yeah, maybe we'll pass it this summer.
Yeah, man, cool. That's good to know.
Yeah. Right now there's a lot about your and my opinion about this. Is there anything that you heard from the community that I'm going to drop here before I continue with next thing?
Just lots of good shops that I've also personally had good experiences at. The Mandolin store, I got to mention the Mandolin store because that's an Ohio business. They're in southwestern Ohio, and it's kind of like one of the top resources for mandolin players specifically online. So if you're looking for a good mandolin, they will definitely have you hooked up. But yeah, a couple other stores too. Some folks were mentioning some UK shops. I know we have listeners in the UK, so somebody said Hobgoblin Music is a good one to check out.
Been there?
Yeah, really? Look at this guy. Yeah. And then what was the other one? Custy's Traditional Music Shop in Ennis, Ireland is supposedly one. Linda in the Facebook group mentions the Acoustic Shop in Springfield, Missouri. Not only are they an amazing shop, they are a hilarious group of guys. I met them at IBMA last year, and anyone out there should check out their social media accounts because they do stuff like they string up guitars with weed whacker line and all this kind of stuff. Like just kind of like joke. They filled an acoustic guitar with beans to see how it sounded last week. Like there's all this kind of crazy stuff they do.
Wow, that's an interesting take on it.
Yeah. I don't think they ship it to you like that. I think if you order a guitar from them, you get it with no beans on the inside. But maybe you could ask for that, you know?
Bean filled. Yeah. Now that we're actually, I'm glad you mentioned the UK store and all that, because I do know about these stores that you mentioned. Elderly, I've ordered things from there. Mandolin store, I've ordered things from there. So they're world renowned, sort of, in our circuits. I mean,
Yeah.
but I also know, because people also ask me, if, for example, we were talking about a tone guard in the previous episode, and I do know a few German instrument shops that are keeping the tone guard, for example. I just want to mention them. It's Martin's Musikkiste. It's German, but good one for acoustic instruments. And there's also New Acoustic Gallery, a store in Germany. We're specialized in our niche, sort of. So
I think I've heard of New Acoustic Gallery.
Yeah. His name is Oliver Weitze, who's keeping. He's also a musician and cool. I just realized I want to show you something. I forgot about the mandolin maintenance thing. I got one thing behind my back here that I want to show you.
Yeah, definitely. Oh. Had to do some repair on the old
describe here,
Hoffy
Hayes,
case.
what you're seeing in the image. Some of you.
Yeah, so we're looking at Magnus's Hoffy case, and he's got a couple clamps on the outside there. Does it look like we maybe had to reattach the rubber kind of trim to the outside? Or
yes.
Yeah.
So now it's an interesting moment. So also I can say this out. If you're listening to the audio version, just know that members of Mandolin Secrets Academy, they also have a video version exclusive for them. So in the video, you can now see that I'm loosening my clamps, and we're going to see how this little work did it work or not. So this one's bit loose. You can see I have to take. There we got it.
Nice. Congratulations.
It's back again. It was, for some reason, too little glue, I guess.
Yeah, coming loose.
And you can see I have to take away a little bit of glue here.
Yeah. Did you? What kind of glue did you use to reattach that? Is it like was it epoxy, or was it actually just some kind of glue that you?
I didn't use epoxy. I was using just an ordinary glue, sort of.
Yeah.
It's called Carlsson's glue in Sweden.
Yeah. Love it.
No, but it's. So I was trying and I think it works now. It's been like drying for 24 hours now, basically.
Yeah.
Yesterday. But if it will not be solid like this, I will try an epoxy. But I was trying the level 1 first.
Yeah, well, best of luck with that. Yeah, that's a little bit of case maintenance is standard, right? You know, the case, it gets more wear and tear. So
yeah. All right, I want to play back. So lately I've been putting out some lessons for Red Haired Boy, the fiddle tune. It's a pretty cool tune. Well, not only from a musical standpoint, but also the fact that it's part of both like North American old-time bluegrass tradition, as well in like Irish and Scottish music. I guess it has its origin probably in the Celtic and made its way into the North American. But it's so it's a really good tune to know, since it's played in both circuits, sort of. There's a melody and chord lesson, but I also have a lesson including some Adam Steffey Hero Licks. So it's a lick that I learned from Adam Steffey a few years ago. It is part of a solo. It's called Honey Hurry Home, a song with Jim Lauderdale, and I've heard he play a really cool lick, really like up the neck kind of thing that I learned. And but now I modified this lick a little bit, also made it more accessible for beginner players. So we're playing it in like open position, and then also doing it like closed position up the neck. And so now when I'm playing this back, I'm actually playing Red-Haired Boy, and I'm throwing in this Adam Steffey lick a couple of times. I think you can hear it. It's basically the first, it's like a 2-bar phrase, so it really suits really well to squeeze it into a fiddle tune like this. So playing it back here. Let me see. That's how it's done. 3, 4. Yeah, it's coming there.
Nice lick.
Yes, it's a nice one. I mean, it's there's very few players who can play with such an elegance and drive as Adam Steffey. So why not take a little, borrow some some of his vocabulary into our own?
Yeah. That's the kind of, that's the next step, right? After we talk about this with our students all the time, you learn the tunes and then you start to kind of modify them, right? Put your hero licks in there or whatever it happens to be. And that's how you learn the language too, right? It's just like learning English or Swedish. You take a phrase and you jam it in wherever you can, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'm kind of just working on getting this lick into my playing myself at a moment. So that's why also one thing interesting for people to maybe see about this process. First thing I want to mention, I learned the lick in B flat. I was playing in B flat. So, but now we're playing a tune in A major. So, of course, I got to transpose this lick. And also the fact that I'm just making it more accessible, playing it in open position, so that we're adjusting those phrases so that we can more easily use them. And that's also one of the reasons why very often it's actually better to kind of digest a 2-bar phrase like this instead of learning an entire solo, for example, because that might be difficult to, how will I use the Adam Steffey Honey Hurry Home solo, sort of.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a little section in that solo that I now can include in my playing. And so I think people, by studying this lesson, will see the approach, and hopefully people can try it themselves to do the same process, sort of.
Yeah, that's great. I think, like we said, it's kind of necessary if you want to get into this style. So,
yeah, absolutely. And for people listening, you find complete tutorials with backing track, play along, PDFs, tabs, everything inside Mandolin Secrets Academy. I'm now kind of want to wrap things up in this trinity of instrument questions. This question is, what is the best low-cost or budget instrument you played? How do you feel about this, Hayes, and what are the community saying?
Yeah, I think a lot of the community members agree with my personal opinion. The first to like budget mandolin, I'll go with mandolin first because I'll give my favorite guitar take too. But the first budget mandolin that I ever played that I was like really impressed with, like 100% all the way around. Like the playability, the feel, the fit and finish, the tone was an Eastman A model. I really like I think it was like what is it, the Eastman 305 or something like that. I'll say that with a caveat. Those are not the cheapest budget mandolins anymore. No, they used to be a lot cheaper than they are now. Yeah. But I think Eastman was a used Eastman. If you're getting into the mandolin, I don't think anything could serve you better than that. And then a close runner up is the Kentucky KM150. It's an A model mandolin that can be had for just a couple $100.
Yeah, that's really low cost actually for an instrument.
Yeah, right. I think if I was suggesting, if someone didn't know if they were going to stick with the mandolin, I would say the Kentucky. Buy the Kentucky and see if you like it, and then upgrade later. But if you feel like you're gonna hold on to it for a while, the Eastman would be worth the upgrade from the beginning. So that's kind of my opinion. And I saw that there was at least 6 people in the community that said the same thing, that they thought Eastman, and then a few Kentucky votes as well. I'm looking through the community. Some folks are talking about K mandolins or like old Epiphone mandolins. The Lore, that's another good brand out there. So tons of good options out there. I would say if you're looking for a budget instrument, the best budget instruments are going to be at least $150 US. Anything under that is probably not going to be very playable and will require a lot of work from a luthier, like we were talking about earlier. So
but that seems reasonable. And I guess also, if I'm not wrong, I guess all the instruments, the Eastman, Kentucky, Lore, they are like Asian built.
Exactly.
China
China, Korea, places probably like that. That used to mean something in terms of quality. I think like people at least in the States, they would have like a bad association with like a Chinese built instrument and like the quality. I think that's kind of a thing of the past now. There's so many good instruments coming out of China, banjos, guitars, mandolins, all of them. So
that's really cool. And I also I played really good Eastman mandolins, and I think they have, as you also mentioned, they have not been as cheap as $150. I mean, they've been probably around the $500 range, but still, it's a budget instruments. Because I mean, we're talking like hand built instruments for Eastman. With solid woods. I mean,
exactly.
It's incredible. It can be as low as 500 or.
Did I tell you that I toured the Eastman factory one time?
I don't know.
So my after my senior year of college, Denison University took a group of the bluegrass ensemble students to China for a 2-week tour. And my guitar teacher at the time, Eastman Instruments had just started being imported to the United States, and my guitar teacher was a jazz guitar player. He had one of their arch tops and was blown away by it. So he reached out to the Eastman factory. He emailed them and said, "We're going to be in China. Can we come take a tour?" They sent a private car to our hotel and took us to this like 5-star lunch. They paid for it. Like we didn't even buy anything from them. They just like treated us like royalty. But to speak to what you were saying, they took us through the shop, and there was like one person, he was the back carving guy, and there was another guy that was the top carving guy, and it was like it was what you would expect to see in the Gibson factory in the 1920s, you know what I mean? Just like highly trained craftsmen building the instruments. So it was really cool.
That's really cool. Not too many people have had that opportunity, I guess.
Yeah.
That's great.
Very lucky.
Yeah. I also gave my response to this question, and the one thing that I shared there was also, again, this is not like low cost instruments, but one of the guitars that I'm very impressed with is a guitar brand from the Czech Republic called Furch. That's how we are pronouncing it, Furch. Furch. They will probably pronounce it different themselves, but also I think the guitars are maybe from around $500. Well, kind of, but sounds really nice.
There are some of their instruments. I've seen them range from that low to like $2,000. You know, they kind of have like the full range of models. But I played a couple of those at IBMA last year and was also very impressed. I think Czech Republic is a great place to look for a lower cost instrument that's also, like you said, completely hand built. You know, like there's a craftsman working on that thing. It's been voiced by a person. I think also too, if I'm not mistaken, Furch guitars are sometimes go under the name Stonebridge, or used to be built under the name Stonebridge. Like I feel like in Canada they were called that, you know, and then like, so if you ever see a Stonebridge guitar out there, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing.
Stonebridge. That's nice.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, we talked about this before, like, what was it, like, Levin was called something else in the United States.
Was it Goya? Was it?
Goya, that's right, yeah. So I think it's this kind of thing, but that's a great vote for a low-cost guitar.
Yeah. And of course, there is more low-cost, like the Asian instruments.
Yeah, if you're looking at Asian, Yamaha is kind of my top brand. If I've got a new student who's like, they don't know if they're going to stick with it, but they want a good sounding instrument that'll last forever, buy a Yamaha. Like, don't even think twice about it. Get a Yamaha FG800 if you want a dreadnought, or a Yamaha FS800 if you want a small body, and don't look back. It'll be a great purchase.
Cool. Yes, as I said, maybe we'll see if we be this smart ever again, like having 3 questions close connected to each other.
Maybe I can even, craft that to be a thing. Maybe we don't have to stumble into it next time,
Yes, but I want to thank people for checking in, listening to the podcast. Always nice to do this, and also, of course, thank you, Hayes, for sharing your knowledge and stories with us here today.
Yeah, man. It's been good.
Anything else you want to do to wrap things up?
No, I think the only thing that I've got left to say is, keep an eye out on mandolinsecrets.com/podcast if you want to follow the show, and we've got full episode descriptions and all that kind of stuff there. And then, like Magnus said earlier, if you want access to the video podcast, head to mandolinsecrets.com and sign up for the Academy, because that's a special perk for all the members there.
Yes, that's cool. And so wishing everyone a nice summer. Me and Hayes are right now out doing a few different music adventures on our, Hayes overseas, and I'm here back in Sweden. But actually next month already we are getting together to do some concerts and do some workshops. We're doing a workshop series here in Sweden, so if anyone want to come and hang out with us, you can meet us at Gränna Bluegrass Festival, middle of August sort of. And around that time, we will also record a few new podcast episodes. So if we don't meet you in Gränna, we'll meet you soon in a new podcast episode.
Sounds great.
And always remember, my friends, I'm saying this to myself and to all your listeners, be a music maker.